intervene in this debate in support of the motion which is before this Parliament. On the 14th of August this year, during my contribution to the debate on the financial statements and budgetary proposals, I called on the Minister of Finance to resign, failing which he should be dismissed by the Prime Minister of this country. After his statement on the previous day, presenting the financial statements and budget, I was satisfied that he was incompetent, that he was not fit to be Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs of this country. Today, Mr. Speaker, 10 weeks after that date, I'm even more so convinced that the Minister of Finance of this country is totally incompetent, totally unfit for the job, and is a disaster to this country. He's easily, sir, the most incompetent Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs that this country has ever had. This country has had Ministers of Finance and Economic Affairs of the caliber of the Right Excellent Errol Barrow and Tom Adams and the Right Honourable Owen Seymour Arthur. And when we look at the Minister of Finance, the current one, sir, he cannot even tie the shoelaces of any of those individuals. And sir, this is nothing personal, sir, that I have against the Minister of Finance. He may very well have grown to be one of our more accomplished Ministers of Foreign Trade if he had been left in that position in which he was first appointed after the 2008 elections. He's trained in that area, foreign trade policy, and he may very well have done well, rather than be shifted 3 years ago into a position in which he's not suited. It is unfair to him, sir, and really and truly the people of St. James North have instructed me to come today to say that they have absolutely no confidence in him, and that enough is enough, and that it is time for him to leave. Minister of Finance himself, Mr. Speaker, in his budget presentation at page 26, admitted that he has presided over a decline in the level of overall confidence in our economy by foreign and domestic investors alike, and that lack of confidence, decline in confidence, has resulted in the loss of over $300 million in foreign reserves in the second quarter of this year. Now, sir, the foreign reserves and the economy was declining all through from 2 years ago, last year especially, leading up to the elections. But the country was told that all was well. Suddenly now, after the election in February, we get an admission of a decline in the economic fortunes of Barbados. We told the country, sir, that the decline had started long time ago. The Democratic Labour Party won the election by a nose tip, and suddenly we get the confessions. Suddenly, sir, we get the position that unless we arrest that decline in foreign reserves, that Barbados' economy will face catastrophe by the end of the year. Sir, there is a lack of confidence by investors not only in the economy of Barbados, but in the Minister of Finance himself. And that lack of confidence is well merited. To begin with, sir, in politics, as in life for anyone in a serious and responsible and significant position of authority, your word should be your bond. Your word should be your bond, because not only 300,000 people in Barbados are dependent on the word of the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, but thousands of people outside of Barbados, hundreds of people in an international community, financial and international business sector, and international financial sector depend on the word of two people, sir, especially the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs. And what is the position of the Minister of Finance on this issue, sir? Some may wish to dismiss his position on the Economic Partnership Agreement, as is mentioned in the newspaper today, as my honourable leader referred to, where he changed his position. Before 2008, he criticised it tremendously, but after becoming the Minister of Foreign Trade, of which I spoke, he praised it. Some may say that was political posturing. And let us say that it was. But now let us examine his words on to the CLECO policyholders. Wherefore, over 2 years, 3 years, he has been promising them repayment of at least their principal money. They have not been paid 1 single cent up to today. And when the head of the Policyholders Committee speaks out merely seeking to get her return on investment at that of her fellow policyholders, she's cursed in the most abusive way. Bald pooch cat, she's called. That kind of language from a Minister of Finance really should have and ought to have no place on the political landscape of this country. We speak, sir, on the Four Seasons issue. Four Seasons issue, where for years again we've been told at various intervals by the minister that Four Seasons will reopen, that a gold mine will be open, that people in Barbados, in St. James North, will get jobs at Four Seasons. Up to now, Four Seasons has not reopened. Up to today, Four Seasons has not reopened. We speak, sir, of the debt owed by the government to people in private sector. $50 million it was said to be towards the end of last year, and the Minister of Finance saying that you will be paid in a few weeks' time. And people depending on that in structuring their businesses, in structuring their daily lives, being responsible as well for the employment of many Barbarians. Up to now, we have heard no word about the repayment of this multi-million debt to the people in the private sector after a promise to repay. And those people, sir, saying that they have no choice, therefore, but to lay off people, which they have done on a daily basis in this country since the elections. On a daily basis in this country, sir, people have been laid off throughout Barbados, such that unemployment now is fast moving to where it was in September 1994, when the Barbados Labour Party under Owen Seymour Arthur, the Right Honourable, took over office. The member for St. Peter, Mr. Speaker. Local businesses not only sending home their employees, making them redundant, but closing down as well their life investment, their heart and soul for the last few years, coming to aught at the hands of an incompetent Minister of Finance who has totally mismanaged this country. We speak, sir, of Al Barak judgment, $70 million plus interest, increasing by the thousands every day, being told by the Minister of Finance, you will be paid. Publicly making that statement that Barrett will be paid soon, up to now not having received 1 single cent since he has been Minister of Finance. We speak, Mr. Speaker, of the announcement during the estimates debate in March of a $600 million stimulus package, which was to commence almost immediately, with construction starting within 2 weeks' time at the Bridgetown Pierhead Marina and at housing projects at Exmouth and elsewhere, all of that was to start, and 1,000 jobs were to be created such that people in St. James North would finally be able to get some jobs. Nothing done. No word now. You don't even hear mention, sir, of this $600 million stimulus package, as adjustment had to be made in July, August, when we were finally told about the large deficit which the country has. 1,000 jobs gone through the headers. And, sir, you know, we heard a statement in here today, smoke screens and mirrors from the Honorable Minister of Tourism about Sandals purchasing almond, and the Minister of Finance and Minister of Tourism speaking about 1,500 jobs to be created. So is that a figment of the fertile imagination of the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs? Because almond in St. Peter, when it closed, was only employing 500 people. I would love, sir, that almond would open tomorrow, because most of the people who lost jobs from almond St. Peter were from St. James North. So I would love it to open tomorrow. But to tell me, sir, that there will be no jobs until 12 months from now, that is when construction will start, gives no hope to anyone in Western, no hope to anyone in Sion Hill, Rockdunda, or Aston Hall, or in any part of Barbados. People want relief today as they are laid off from their jobs. And we have heard too many promises, pies in the sky, from the Honorable Minister to trust his word anymore as representatives of the people. We need, sir, the Minister of Finance to explain why on the 13th of August he announced the dismantlement of free tertiary education in this country to save $45 million. The young Barbadians and others, Barbadians will now have to pay tuition fees representing 20% of the cost of their education at the University of the West Indies. And this, sir, is a knife in the back of Barbadians. It is an insult to the founding father of the Democratic Labour Party, the Right Excellent Errol Barrow, who fought for this and whose vision it was primarily that this was brought in. And we talk about a Minister of Finance and we want to show confidence in him. The University of the West Indies, but the Barbados government now owes the University of the West Indies $200 million and climbing. When the Democratic Labour Party came into office in January 2008, the Barbados Labour Party had actually paid a surplus in monies due under its agreement with the University of the West Indies. $200 million. That is what the Minister of Finance has presided over, $200 million debt to the University of the West Indies. Barbados used to stand proud among countries and nations in this world as a country that used to pay its debts, used to pay its dues to all the international organizations it's paid, used to tell other countries, big countries, no, you don't have to pay our dues. If we can't pay the dues, we do not deserve to be members of the club. And we now stand in shame as members of Parliament, ought to stand in shame, members of Parliament on the other side, that Barbados now owes the University of the West Indies $200 million, presided over by the Honorable Minister of Finance. Young Barbadians now will not have the opportunity. Young Barbadians who are qualified and eligible will now not have to be able to attend the University of the West Indies and rise and improve their economic and social status in this country and that of their families. because of the policies of the Honorable Minister of Finance. And as I said during my budget contribution, sir, that is a total shame. When almost all of his colleagues on that side, including himself, have been the beneficiaries of free university education at the University of the West Indies, some getting 3 degrees paid for by the taxpayers of this country. We are in a situation today, sir, where schools are not being given supplies. This is now week 7, I believe it is, in the school term. Some schools, a lot of schools across the length and breadth of this country, have not been given supplies, whether cleaning supplies, other supplies by the ministry toilet paper. They've got to bring their own toilet paper to school. Not being given these supplies by the Ministry of Education because the Minister of Finance has cut the budget. That is the position we find ourselves now, sir. And we're talking about we are not a banana republic or a kangaroo. There's been a marked decline in the quality, both the quality and quantity of school meals in this country. Again, undermining the concept of free school meals, which their founding father had brought out. We need not even speak about the total disarray in the public transport system in Barbados, where 1/3 of the buses now off the road and where school children can't get to school on time, those who go to school far from where they live, where people get into work late, not because they don't wake up early and leave home to go to work, but because there is no bus. Up to yesterday on the call-in programs, people calling in, we've been waiting at the bus stand for 2 hours and no bus coming. And the cut of $15 million to the Transport Board has not even been applied as yet. Minister of Finance not giving money to the Transport Board. And you know, Mr. Speaker, the health of a nation is the wealth of a nation. And when a Minister of Finance could so callously cut a Queen Elizabeth Hospital budget by $35 million, the question has to be asked, does he want a whole score of Barbadians to die? We have the statement from a leading doctor at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital that people will die. We've heard about the alleged incident where 2 weeks ago, a victim of a major car crash says, look, you better carry me to the cemetery. Don't worry to carry me to the QH because I'm going to dead anyhow. $20 million owed to the pharmacists in this country. And you give them $2.8 million and tell them, take that, supply the drugs again. Like if people going to take 1/10 of the money that they're owed. We have a situation, sir, where there has been a cut in the subvention of the Council of the Disabled, where I have to plead an interest, sir, because I'm a member of the Board of Directors. A cut in their subvention for the 3rd quarter of this year from $99 million to $46 million. You're cutting the disabled. People who are vulnerable cannot do anything. The blind, the deaf, they can't walk. They can't go now to the Student Revolving Loan Fund and borrow money for the university education, as the government has said that those who will have to pay the tuition fees at UWI from next year can do. What are the disabled to do in Barbados, Mr. Speaker? 99,000 cut from 99,000 to 46,000. 54% cut to the Council of the Disabled. And the Minister of Finance and his Prime Minister and colleagues could say that he must remain on the Barbados. So we would be failing in our duty as representatives of the people if we were to agree to that here today. Then, sir, we speak about the public servants, temporary and otherwise. The Prime Minister has sought to define temporary like if big men and big women who went to school don't know the definition. So temporary and otherwise public officers who the government has professed to love dearly and who they profess to be protecting their employment. Many of these temporary public workers, sir, have not been paid for months. Some have not been paid since May this year. I would ask the Honorable Minister of Finance, if he does not get his salary next week, will he be happy? Or if he is not paid his salary for 5 months, will he be happy? Or will he call the Accountant General and a check come down the same day for his salary? Prison officers, all kind of people in temporary positions not being paid. And a government headed by a Prime Minister and a Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs feeling comfortable about that. Still flying up and down first class. Trips being paid for by their spouses. The people of Barbados suffering. You know, Mr. Speaker, we have a responsibility here. In addition, public servants going to work on a daily basis, not having equipment, not having supplies, not having tools to do their job because the Minister of Finance has failed to transfer money to government departments, to statutory boards, so these individuals, at least those who are being paid still, because as we said, some haven't been paid for 5 months, so that these individuals can be productive and earn a living gainfully. That is what we have. That's the situation where we have many government departments, the workers don't have the tools to do the job, no equipment break down the tractor, no money to repair it. Drainage in National Conservation Commission, in the Public Transport Ministry, all around. The Minister of Finance, Mr. Speaker, has the authority to make choices. He could have removed the constituency councils. He could have removed the football tournament that they have. He could have removed the summer camp largesse to the fatted calf. $3–4 million in catering monies to Democratic Labour Party supporters. He could have removed the $1 million to the Pan-African Commission. Not that African studies and development of links with Africa are not important, but let us get rid of the commission. Let us get rid of the commission. Let us bring the Pan-African Commission, 1 or 2 people working from the Prime Minister's office. That could have been done. The reality is that people are losing employment on a daily basis. They are unable to find work as a direct result of the Minister of Finance's tax policies and mismanagement of the economy. That, Mr. Speaker, is the primary reason. That is the primary reason for the state of Barbados' economy today, not any non-existent global recession. The International Monetary Fund, Mr. Speaker, has predicted that world economic growth this year will be 2.9%. Growth of Caribbean countries, Guyana, 5% this year. Other countries, 3–4%. We have, and Barbados, declining continuously. No growth predicted for this year or for next year. The only country, as the Honourable Member for St. Michael, Northeast said, the only country in the Americas scheduled to decline in economic growth over the next 2 years is this country.
The Honourable Member has 5 minutes in which to conclude.
And Mr. Speaker, And, Mr. Speaker, one has to question the judgment of the Honourable Minister, because judgment is key in this whole issue. And the people of Barbados want to know what reasonable Minister of Finance could give the concessions to cost you less that he gave leading up to a general election. What could get into a Minister of Finance's head to deprive the economy of Barbados of millions of dollars in foreign reserves by the concessions given to a company cost you less that is not unique, because it's rivaling Barbadian companies. And because of that, Barbadian companies like the Costa Manning closing down, Barbadians losing jobs. What is the reason why that was given? What price has Barbadians have to pay? What price did they have to pay? What price will they have to pay in the future because of cost you less? And sir, we speak about integrity and the Prevention of Corruption Act, that even though it has passed both of these houses, has not been proclaimed because no commission has been set up to have oversight of it. And we wonder why, sir. And we wonder about these concessions given to cost you less within the context of a Prevention of Corruption Act that has not been proclaimed. And we wonder why it has not been proclaimed, despite the Prime Minister saying for dogs and since he was Attorney General that it will be passed. Is it that the Minister of Finance and other members of his cabinet do not want it to be proclaimed, sir, because of issues of cost you less and otherwise? Sir, let's make no bones about it. It is better for the Barbados Labour Party that the Honourable Minister remains as Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs. It is better for the Barbados Labour Party because he will preside over the eventual destruction of the Democratic Labour Party. But sir, I am a Barbadian. I am a Barbadian first and foremost. And what is good for Barbados is in my mind, sir. I put Barbados before my party. And because of Barbados, the Minister of Finance has to go. When we have a situation where Barbados cannot even access funds on the international financial market, and we are told that Jamaica bonds are more favorable now than Barbados bonds. Jamaica, one of the most highly indebted countries in the Western Hemisphere. Now their bonds are more favorable than our bonds. And this excuse about the US government shutting down for 2 weeks and therefore we couldn't access the loan. Come, let us be truthful, let us be frank and fair with the Barbadian people. Let us be fair, let us come clean. Let us tell the people that you put up bonds and they were not subscribed. Give the people some hope, show us a way forward. Mr. Prime Minister, exercise leadership on this issue. If the present Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs is the best person on your team, Mr. Prime Minister, to lead this country's economic and financial destiny, Lord help us. I don't believe that he's the best. I believe that we have an honourable member there, the member for St. Michael West, who trained throughout his political career for the position, who read on the issue, who understands a bit about debt, St. Philip West, sir, sorry, St. Philip West, who trained on the issue, and who can take over the ministry. And who can take over the ministry? He will do a much better job than the present minister. We have one, an honourable member who professes Kelmanomics. Why we can't give him the chance? But sir, we have a situation where even a fellow cabinet minister,
please wind up,
where even a fellow cabinet minister speaks about an error in a municipal tax. The Prime Minister should not feel obliged by the decision of the late Prime Minister 3 weeks before his very unfortunate demise 3 years ago to be hamstrung by the appointment of the Minister of Finance. This is time, Mr. Speaker, for us to take responsibility. Stop blaming the non-existent global recession. Stop blaming the shutdown in U.S. government when the International Monetary Fund said that that will have no effect on Barbados. And even, sir, the statement by the Honourable Minister of Finance that he is not concerned that virtually all ministers of finance since the Right Honourable late Tom Adams have faced no confidence motions. He couldn't even get that correct, sir. Because the late
Honourable Member, your time has
John,
expired. Please wind up.
So the late Bernard St. John didn't face a no confidence motion. Sir Richard Haynes didn't face one. The Right Honourable Member for St. Peter never faced any no confidence motion. Sir, we have to face our responsibility to the people, and it should be the duty of the government side to support this motion. Thank you very much. Sir.
Yes,